Okay, of course, I'm Bill Moore with EV World, and we're going to talk about hacking cars today. And with me, I've got a couple of experts on that subject. To my right, and of course, his left, I guess, is Daniel Thunberg. Daniel is the global head of Internet of Things at Irdeto, and his colleague with him to my left and to his right is John O'Connor. And they're both with a company up in Ontario, Canada, and we're going to talk about the problem of being able to hack connected cars and how obviously that might impact the growth of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles as we move forward. So guys, welcome to EV World.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a great to have you here. Well, what got this started, of course, was an email from Stephen Russell, who I guess represents you guys media-wise, telling me, or informing me about the hack recently of a Mitsubishi Outlander over in the UK. And of course, now that we're starting to see, albeit a trickle, comparatively speaking, of electric vehicles hitting the road, according to a recent report from the International Energy Agency, we've got about well over 1 million electric cars now out there. Many of those featuring the ability, like the Tesla Roadster, or like the Tesla Model S and others, that have this incredible connectivity, which allows the guys in Palo Alto to sit there, or Hawthorne, or wherever they're doing it from, make a few adjustments and suddenly be able to, execute all kinds of interesting upgrades and changes to their cars as they sit there. While this is a wonderful convenience, I can get my car fixed while it sits in my garage overnight rather than having to drive it to a dealership and all that kind of BS. It also poses a problem in that if people are really clever or automotive engineers are really dumb, one of the two or maybe both, people can figure out how to get into that system and do some things to it. So that's what we want to talk about. So let's start off talking about what's this deal with the hacking of the Mitsubishi Outlander?
Okay, well, so one of the things that Mitsubishi has done slightly differently than other manufacturers is that they've actually put a Wi-Fi access point in the car as opposed to the full-on GSM module. And so essentially the pre-shared key for the access point is very short. So it means it's actually pretty crackable. Once you have this, by actually replaying some of the messages from the app's communication with the car, it does allow an attacker to get in onto the Wi-Fi module. Now, once on the Wi-Fi module, it's possible for an attacker to disable the car alarm. They can mess with the HVAC system. The initial attack hasn't gone super far into the hack right now, but it is obviously connected to the OTP2 port once you've unlocked the doors. So that, of course, means that there's more interesting things can be done. It does look very likely that this is connected on the CAN bus, and the CAN bus, of course, is the major system for communications in the car. From the app, it is possible to update the firmware on the Wi-Fi module. So this is a great thing if you don't have to do a recall, but potentially the security on that Wi-Fi module, if it's checking for trusted and signed code correctly, and if you kind of look at the attack, you can't really assume that the right security measures have actually been put into place. So it may be possible for somebody to actually, flash untrusted software onto the Wi-Fi module and get up to all sorts of other interesting things. It also looks pretty likely that this Wi-Fi module is connected to the in-vehicle entertainment system, the IVI unit. And so potentially on there, they could steal personal data, they could run malicious software. I think there's a lot of potential for different types of attacks, from ransomware to running malware to stealing data. Essentially, making your car not very trustworthy.
Right. Well, I hadn't thought about the ransomware part of this. You go out to your car and a little message pops up on the screen and says, you are not going to be able to drive this car unless you pay me €1,000 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, I think, what we're seeing right now is that a lot of the vehicles that have added connectivity to it, it's kind of, new exciting features that are being added to vehicles. It solves, particularly practical problems like, recalls and others. But one of the issues is that when you begin to actually add, multiple types of connectivity to the vehicle, you also expose yourself to multiple security problems. And when you haven't really kind of thought through the whole solution from a security perspective and kind of analyzed every, potential attack surface, you are probably going to leave some vulnerabilities. And right now we're seeing primarily researchers kind of exposing these vulnerabilities to some extent, and we haven't really seen any commercial hackers or criminals exposing these yet. But this is the starting point, and we've seen this in other industries in the past. This is how it starts, and then it kind of evolves into business models for criminals and hackers to expose these vulnerabilities.
Right. Well, let me understand, just go back just a moment here and understand what was going on with respect to Mitsubishi. In reading the Guardian article about this hack, there was a speculation that essentially Mitsubishi did this for cost reasons, that it was just cheaper to do the Wi-Fi module as opposed to the GSM. So let me understand what's happening here is that they put a Wi-Fi router, if you will, in the car. How does that communicate with the outside world? It communicates with the cell phone, and then the cell phone communicates with the outside world. Is that how the connectivity establishes?
Yes, absolutely. That's
okay.
Exactly. So it's leveraging the GSM functionality in the phone,
right,
and using the smartphone app to actually, kind of do the heavy lifting of the communication with the car.
Okay, so the alternative would be, let's say we're talking maybe Tesla, and I don't know, you'll have to correct me on that, is that instead of using just the phone for the connectivity, they actually have a full sort of GSM system built into the car, so even if the phone's not present, they can still talk to the car and do these upgrades and things.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Okay, good. Well, that just make sure I understood that. I'm interested because just yesterday we put a GSM Wi-Fi router system into our Quick Bike kiosk module that we're creating here as a spinoff of EV World. We're creating a portable electric bicycle rental box in our shop in a box. Okay,
right.
And so obviously we want to be able to do our transactions via the internet and so on. And so we got this little thing called the P-Wave thing that gets put in there, and we actually established communication with it yesterday. So this is kind of relevant to me because obviously I don't want somebody coming along and figuring out how to hack my system. So, but of course we're interested in the automotive, obviously the automotive side of this thing. Well, look, tell me a little bit about the company. You guys obviously you're working on some solutions here. Tell me a little bit about Irdeto.
Right. Yeah, so Irdeto has been in the kind of digital media and software security business for a very long time. The company was actually founded in 1969. And then at that time we started off with analog technology, kind of moved on with digital technology in the 1990s, and today we're one of the world leaders in digital platform security. So this technology has been primarily deployed in the media space up until now, but with the Internet of Things and more or less all objects being connected, the same technology is highly applicable in other segments. So we kind of got roped into the automotive space about a year ago when there were other hacks exposed, like the G-Pack and so forth, and people really started to pay attention to what do we actually need to do to secure the vehicles out there, and also how can we architect security into the future. So it's a kind of natural transition for us. Technology-wise, it's fairly similar. Of course, there are some differences, but we actually found it being very easy to adapt to those. If you look at our customers, most of our customers are cable companies, satellite, pay TV operators, Hollywood studios, and so forth. These industries have very high demand for high levels of security because you have people trying to expose and monetize hacking these objects on a daily basis.
Sony being a good example, right?
Yeah. So you know, we're used to a very high pressure environment where there's, you know, constant threats and so forth, and you know, we haven't seen that in some of the new segments like automotive yet, but you know, it's certainly going to come. And the solution we created for automotive kind of include all these components. So not only are you able to actually secure modules inside the vehicle, but also smartphone apps and things that actually communicate with the vehicle. We then have the ability to, you know, identify any type of, you know, suspicious activity or attacks on either, you know, the vehicle itself or on smartphone apps and so forth. And then we have a security operations center which can detect this and take action, either based on automatic policies, or if you want to do it as a manual process because you want to understand a little bit more about what the attacker is doing before you shut him down. We have all these things already in place, and we're doing this for other companies, and it's a fairly similar model that would apply to automotive as well.
Right. Well, I find it's kind of interesting. I mean, if you think about it, you've got, what, a few hundred or a few thousand companies that, you know, you're working with here to protect them, but you know, potentially we're talking tens of millions, hundreds of millions of motor vehicles of all shapes and sizes, from you know, taking over everything from automated ships, right? They're working on that now, down to you know, somebody's electric bicycle. You know, and so on. So it looks like it's an interesting field, but I'm wondering how. And the other thing I was thinking about too is that one of the things we want to do is we want these cars talking to each other.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so there's a wonderful opportunity, a horrible opportunity, for, you know, viruses to get put in one car, and suddenly as you're driving down, that virus is multiplying to all the other cars around it, and pretty soon you've got a, you know, an automotive contagion taking place.
Yeah.
Kind of scary, actually, when you think about it.